I'm supposed to be doing dishes, but I've really been thinking a lot about video games and what makes them good. This is only a theory, but for my money, there are 6 main things that affect your game. The first is publicity. Who is playing your game and who is telling people to play your game. This is the most important. If someone you trust or look up to is telling you that they've played a game, you're much more likely to play it. If streamers play your game, their audience will play it. Publicity isn't in your hands while you build the game, but the next 5 are. I think studios, especially AAA studios, would like you to believe that graphical quality is the most important part of any game. And for a very select group of players, it is, but for the vast majority of players, graphics mean nothing. As long as they can see what's happening in game, they just don't care. And as a cherry on top of it all, most folks can't even afford the PC specs to run the highest quality graphics. Don't waste your money on it, it's the least important. Style is second from the bottom, but much more important than graphics. Studios that think that graphics are important need to focus on style. Style is the part of your game that people notice first, especially in ads. It's the block to your Minecraft, the tube animation to your Cuphead, and the nut shot to your Medal of Honor. But if your style is solid, you get away with lower quality graphics. And you set yourself apart from the competition. Second, third, and fourth place are going to be contentious, and there's a good case for any of these being the most important behind publicity, but for me, story is in fourth place. If your game has an excellent story but not much else going for it, please, write a book, make a video, or pitch a movie. Yeah, lots of iconic games have had incredible stories, but just as many, if not more, have little to no story at all. If it weren't for the outlier iconic games with great stories, story would be behind style, in my opinion. Third place will have to be gameplay. It's not necessary to have great gameplay. Walking sims are very popular, but the best games, the games that people remember fondly, the games that people remember forever, have engaging gameplay loops. This is doubly so for multiplayer games like Call of Duty or Apex or Fortnite, where your income source is directly tied to people that want to play your game over and over and over again. If I had to guess, the games that make the most money, outside of gambling and microtransactions, we're talking about what makes a game great, not what makes you money, are the games with the best gameplay. Now to the coveted second place overall, and first place in things that you have a lot of control over. Music. For a lot of devs, music is just an afterthought. We can think of 1,000 games like this. But think on music for a little bit longer. The Elder Scrolls, Cuphead, Undertale, GoldenEye, the Souls games, A Plague Tale, just to name a few. These are all games that vary widely in their story and gameplay quality, but they're iconic nonetheless. Why? It's because music sticks with you. It makes you feel something, even when the gameplay's boring or frustrating. I'm looking at you, Elden Ring. Or when the story's in a lull. Music is portable. In fact, I'm listening to the Elden Ring soundtrack right now as I write this. Maybe I never play a game again, but I'll certainly have the good soundtrack stuck in my head forever. That makes me more likely to buy your games in the future, and recommend you to my viewers and friends. So, there it is. In order from least to most important, we have graphics, being the least important. Very bad. Who needs graphics? Graphics are something that you see through, not something that's really part of your game. It's a way for AAA studios to kind of throw their weight around and say, look at us, we've got the best graphics, but who cares? The rest of those games suck anyway. Next, most important is style. Style is important, and the gap between graphics and style is great, much greater than the gap between gameplay and music, for example. It's what sets you apart from your competition. After that is story. Story can be iconic, but maybe not nearly as much so as gameplay or music. Certainly not as much as publicity. I mean, a game about digging a hole is very popular right now. And similar games have been popular in the past, not because it's great, but because a lot of people are playing it. I actually don't know if that game is great. I've not gotten to play it yet. I should probably do that at some point. See, look, it's working on me. Next is gameplay. Gameplay is important. In fact, the early games were kind of only gameplay. Sure, they had some music, but it was iconic because it couldn't be amazing. It was a lot of 8-bit music, and for the time, it was pretty good. But, I mean, objectively, are we really good? We're not going to objectively sit around and listen to the opening tune to Pac-Man for hours. But you can play the game for like 20 minutes before it gets just horribly boring. Sorry, Pac-Man fans. I know you have strong feelings, and I'm here for you. Next up, music. I think music defines everything there is about a game. And games that I would think are just horribly unbearable, especially a lot of the rage games, like Elden Ring's not really a rage game. it's just very difficult. Cuphead, right? And I think you see this divide here with Getting Over It by Bennett Foddy. That game is fun for like 10 minutes, but it's a lot of lull with not a lot of anything else going on. Lastly is publicity. Publicity is by far the most important, because it gets eyes on your game and people remember things that they played when people recommended it to them. Now, there are a few hidden things on this list that we didn't go over because, quite honestly, the market for this isn't as big. Fewer players are going to be affected by this type of stuff, but there are some important things that if you're going for a more niche market, you probably want to pay attention to. The first of these is accessibility. It's not often that you'll come across players who are, super in need of colorblindness features, of features for dyslexia, but that player base is underrepresented, and you have the opportunity to be one of the very few developers actually focusing on that sort of thing in that space, which would make you inherently popular and inherently make you maybe more or different money than you would be making otherwise. The next is probably sound design. Sound design is often not really looked at much, and that's kind of down to the scenarios where people will be playing games, either in loud environments with friends for multiplayer stuff, or, on televisions that are far away. It's hard to get good sound when you're sitting 10 feet away from a screen, or when you've got the worst earbuds you could buy at Walmart. And last has gotta be theme, what your game is actually about, the genre of your game. So horror games won't appeal to everyone, super kiddie games won't appeal to everyone, card games not to everyone, of course. This is where the majority of your niche comes in. Everything else applied to all games. This one I think is very specific to you and your vision. What are you trying to get out of it? And inside of the theme is where you start to get ideas about, like, is story, gameplay, or music more important? If your style is one that gameplay wins out, then gameplay wins out. If your style is that story wins out, then story wins out.